All right. Hi, everybody. This is the Ask Me Anything with Brendan LaSalle. We are now live, and Brendan just got his first question. So, Brendan, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so somebody has asked me a fantastic question: what my favorite meal at Popeyes is, and I'm really, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to finally get this out in the open. There are very few things on the Popeyes menu that I won't, I just won't do. But my favorite, my reward meal to myself, like if I'm at the Detroit airport and at my favorite Popeyes in the world, in the A wing of the Detroit airport, the Delta wing, I get myself their 4 wings and a biscuit. Now that's not drumettes, that's the actual wing pieces. Spicy, I get extra hot sauce and extra biscuit and green beans. And these days I don't drink soda, so the only drink I can have there is the unsweet tea. But that's my thing. But everything is good there. The Popeyes chicken sandwich is amazing. Like their red beans and rice. Like sometimes if I go, I'll just get an extra red beans and rice and just stick it in the fridge and have it the next day for breakfast with a bunch of Tabasco, and I'm happy as a clam. So, thank you. That Timothy Deschaine. Thank you, Timothy Deschaine, for your marvelous question. I am grateful. While we're waiting on more questions, Joseph, can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Sure. While we're waiting on more questions, I'll say that Michael Curtis tells me the story of meeting somebody who said, "Oh, yeah, I met one of the DCC judges in the airport." And I'm like, "Well, which one was it?" It's like, "Well, he's kind of a heavyset guy with goatee." And he's like, "It could be a lot of dudes." And he's like, "Yeah, he was really mowing down some Popeyes." And Mike's like, "Oh yeah, that was Brendan." It was. So.
That's great. All right, so audience, if you have questions, throw them out. If not, I will start peppering Brendan with anecdotes that I remember from his past that I'm sure he'd want to explain to everybody.
I'm happy to. It might just be me talking to Tim. Tim, ask me anything, baby. Is there some way to... Well, there's 13 participants, so...
Oh, here we go.
How do I choose the descriptive language? Oh, hey, Alan, what's up? Alan is one of my absolute favorite people in the world, and it's very cool to see you on here. Descriptive language that I use when I'm running modules. It's a lot of trial and error. Honestly, I try to be as evocative as possible and try to really watch the reactions of people when I am, when they're as they come up. So over time, what you're really looking at here is just me running so many hours of games and just really honing it and honing it and honing it. Even before I started doing it professionally, I ran a ton of, Dungeons and Dragons, endless White Wolf games, so much Champions, so much, what's it called? Not Deadwood. What's the cowboy game? I can't think of it now. Weird West. I don't know. I can't. It's
Oh, I know the one. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me. Yeah.
Darkstar. No, that's not right. Oh,
Deadlands.
Deadlands. Thank you, Mike. Goodness gracious. So it's just been doing it a lot, but that all comes from just doing it a whole bunch of times and just finding what works well, and then sometimes getting called on it. I recently last year I had some folks making fun because I will very often say the phrase, "You see a creature the likes of which you've never seen before," and I have learned that I have to cut that out of my vocabulary, or at most use it once per session. I got another one here. Did you have to ask as project manager for Xcrawl, or did JG handle that? I guess I was the project manager for Xcrawl, Joe. I worked with Joe every step of the way, and he told me what he wanted me to, as far as dates and all, but as far as the actual game went.
Actually, I'd say you were lead designer, primary designer, lead writer. I guess, and I'll be more the project side, doing, coordinating the layout. But Brendan's the creative genius here. I'm just the monkey.
Yeah, Joseph's doing all the art and everything, so. Where are you from, and where do you call home now? Hey, Kent, what's up? I am originally from Long Island, New York. I'm from a little town called Uniondale, which is where Nassau Coliseum and Hofstra University are. But I currently reside in Kennesaw, Georgia, about an hour north of Atlanta. And I am, that's my locality. I have lived all over the U.S. and lived most of my life in Georgia. And I certainly, I don't know, I'm a combination. I feel like I've got weird mannerisms and taste and slang that I've picked up from all the places that I've been to, so everyone's jumping in Deadlands. I love gamers so hard. Y'all are so awesome. Thank you. Could not think of it. What appendix and author has inspired and influenced your gaming the most? Okay, so I will give two. Ursula K. Le Guin is my big go-to. In my original D&D campaign was pretty much a combination of Ursula K. Le Guin's what do you call it? Oh gosh, flew in my head again. Earthsea. Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea series, and then the Savage Sword of Conan magazine. So my original campaign back when I was running AD&D for my buddies, it was pretty much a bunch of small islands, each one which had their own kind of flavor as far as the civilization and things went, there and such, and the one island, there were islands that were more towards one alignment or that were controlled by this race or that race, or that, this one is warlike and these guys are cool, or this is where all the wizards come from. Then Savage Sword of Conan. I was hugely into Savage Sword of Conan when I was a kid. I mean, I was like nuts for it. My dad would buy Conan. He would buy the Savage Sword of Conan. He would read them twice and then give them to me, and then I would read those forever. I would just, read them. I still have a few tucked away. So, I mean, indirectly, I guess that makes Robert E. Howard another big influence. But once I started getting into running and writing for DCC, I really went back and hit Jack Vance very hard. I was really into Dying Earth, and I felt like Dying Earth, that kind of flavor really lent itself to Xcrawl, to DCC stuff. You know what I mean? So kind of the weirdness and a little bit of the despair of Dying Earth, where it's this sort of like bleak world, and that if there is going to be anything positive, anything great that comes, it's got to come from the players. Like they're the ones that are really, making it all happen. So indirectly, all of those. But yeah, definitely Ursula K. Le Guin and her Earthsea series, which I cannot recommend enough. It's the ur text of so many things that are popular now, including, I feel, The Magicians that shows on TV, and Harry Potter, and all of those like magical high school things. So I'm reading down here. Tim Shane says to all panelists, when you have multiple projects, do you hit one hard until it's done, or do you work on multiple simultaneously? When I have my preference, I hit one hard until it's done. I work best when, like, if I have to work on a thing like just nights and weekends, it takes X amount of time, let's say. But if I can work on something and I have nothing else to do, like if it's, like in the beginning of this year when I worked on Xcrawl Classics probably for 3 years, I would say, but 20% of the actual writing, in other words, I handwrite first. So all of my stuff starts off as a handwritten stuff in my notebooks. So I would say 20% of it, the actual, like putting it down into a text file on my computer and getting it ready to do it, 20% of that happened in the last 2 months, from starting January 1st of this year until I turned it in. Joseph, I don't remember exactly when I turned it in, but like early March or February or April?
Yeah, early March sounds right. Early to mid-March, maybe?
Yeah. So.
Actually, and Brendan, if I can throw this out, every creator has their own process. Maybe you could talk about your process that does involve sort of notebooks, from what I can tell, lots of notebooks, scribbled notes, and then later on you assemble it all. Just that process is interesting to me.
Sure, yeah, so I feel like the act of physically writing things in my handwriting in a book is really important for my creativity. So I almost, I won't say always, because every once in a while I'll get an idea and I'll be on an airport or in a hotel room, and I'm very fussy about notebooks. So I want to, if I have a new idea, I want to have a new notebook, or I want to go back to one of my specific notebooks that I love and, that I want to work in. So if I don't have the right notebook, sometimes I'll just make notes. I have a file on my computer that's called permanent brainstorming, where I'll just go on there, brainstorm a bunch of stuff, and then eventually cut it all out and paste it into another doc when it's time to do it. But yeah, I tend to work by hand for projects that I'm doing. If I have, I'm much happier doing that. So I will typically, let's say for an adventure, I will first write that out by hand. I will do, I'll brainstorm it for a few days, and I'll just, really work hard on that. Getting all that down to, just getting ideas out, just ideas. Then I will try to write a draft of the adventure in just, notebook form, and I will stat out my major monsters. I will make sure I have the treasure written down. It's funny, I can do things on the fly. I mean, I've just done this so much. I can do a lot of things on the fly, but not treasure. I have to have the treasure written down, and I have to know what I'm doing. And I panic if I'm looking at my notebook in the game and I can't see what the treasure is. I'll panic. So I try not to. But then, from then, if it's an adventure, then I will, from my notebook, just try to run it absolutely as many times as I can. I mean, I'll run an adventure. Luckily, I have my convention schedule that I do. So, sometimes, like Neon Nights, Joseph finally said, hey, I think Neon Nights is ready to go. This is after me running it for a year and probably running it, 30 times, before I started actually writing it down, actually typing it up as a file, I really believe in the playtesting process, and I will run things convention style absolutely as much as I can until I feel really good about it. Like, there comes a point in an adventure when I'm running it, when I'll sit down, I'll run it for a new group of strangers and be like, okay, that felt right. I'm on to something here, And that's when I feel like it's time to actually create a file. So the downside is, I think if I worked for a computer, I think I would probably go quicker. But I don't know that efficiency is the best thing for somebody like me. I'm a grinder. I do not have. I feel like my stuff is good because I put a lot of time into the design and a lot of time into running a specific adventure and a lot of time into getting good at running adventures. I just grind. So that's been huge for me. So
actually,
go ahead.
If I could add one thing about that, one thing that makes your adventure design process kind of interesting to me is the fact that you have the chance to run every adventure, like you said, 3, 5, 7, 20 times at the con circuit. And if you look at your published modules, they have not only a huge playtester list, but usually plus the other 5 cons where I forgot to write down your names, So you probably have the most the most iterative process, So by the time it sees publication, it's really been worked through every possible, player response.
Yeah, that is true. That is actually one of my faults, is that I will, because very often I'll just be running adventures, not really having thought out whether or not I mean to pitch it as a published thing, or I'll be thinking, okay, maybe this is just something I run for fun, and just something I do because I like doing it, But then at some point, it's like, okay, yeah, this is ready for publication, and I realize I have run this game 20 times last year and I didn't get anybody's names. So I'll go through. Sometimes you can find them. Sometimes I can sleuth them out, and I can find pictures and go, okay, who are all these folks? Or I'll put a post up someplace and say, hey, who wants to be on the playtest credit? We played this thing. So, but yeah, there are many, for almost everything I've done. For every playtester you see written down, there's at least a few more. And that is part of my thing. So Kent Landis, who's awesome, by the way, who is cool and doesn't mind if I'm kidding, Kent Landis asks, are you going to update the old DCC Xcrawl modules, Anaheim, Brooklyn, to fit the new format? What about the older Pathfinder ones as well? The answer is I would love to, and if there is enough of a response, I'll have to, obviously, here's the thing, the business side of this, I bow down to Joseph. He'll know if it's the right idea. I certainly would enjoy seeing those things redone for DCC, and specifically, even New Year's Evil. I ran New Year's Evil last night, and I realized that there's a spellcaster in that, but he is a spellcaster based on the old DCC spells, because that is what I was using at the time when I wrote that adventure. If I was doing that today, I definitely would have given him all the Xcrawl spells, because The chance of me actually being able to get into a spell duel with that character are so slim. And if it does happen, my chance of doing well at it are even slimmer. He should be rewritten as an Xcrawl blaster, frankly. This is we're of course talking about Commodore Beelzebub, who is my wizard from from New Year's Evil, who I'm so fond of. But yeah, last night, there were a lot of spells getting shot around that game last night, and I was like, oh, nothing has come up that I can counter with my tiny little repertoire of spells, because they're all of his spells were all DCC. So I guess when it's all over, if let's ask if we'll see. That's really the answer. I would love to do that. I'm certainly not against ever doing it, but I'm taking the wait and see attitude on that, and who knows. Mike Boehm says, why Black Sabbath? Because beyond the obvious, because Black Sabbath. That's awesome. Yes. Black Sabbath, by the way, y'all see my shirt? What? Ta-da! Okay, so I played DCC twice before I got the book. I played both times with Joseph in that playtest. Joseph, remember you came to Atlanta and ran that playtest at
Yeah, that store. I forget the name of it.
Not Comics Kingdom, but I can't. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan. This shirt, by the way, Dr. Alan White sent me this shirt, and I will cherish it forever. I'm so fond of this. And thanks for still talking to me, Alan, after the results of New Year's Evil. Yes. So I played twice before I got the book. I wasn't. A lot of the guys, Mike and Harley and the other dudes were actually in on the writing of DCC. I was kind of off doing my own Xcrawl thing. But when the book came out and I finally got my copy of it, just going through, flipping through the Dungeon Crawl Classics core book, to me, it's a combination of the art and the spells and the mercurial effects. To me, there are some games that try to be heavy metal. You know what I'm saying? And I think by trying to be heavy metal, I find that it's exhausting. It's like, all right, I get it, you're metal. DCC, however, does that effortlessly because it's just a wonderful subtext. Throughout the subtext is throughout the art and the rules and the spells and the monsters. And the more I read DCC, I am not the biggest metal guy in the world. I really am not. I grew up on hip hop and disco, late disco, early hip hop with my childhood, with a couple of rock songs I liked. Up until I moved to Texas and met a bunch of metalheads and discovered Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. But to me, I just hear Black Sabbath in my head when I'm working on DCC stuff. And I think they're proto metal, but I think that Black Sabbath and for somebody who said something about this earlier on DCC, let me tell you, there is no bad incarnation of Black Sabbath. Absolutely not. In my opinion, there are songs I like better than others. There are certainly lineups that are dear to my heart, but there's not a bad one out there, not one. And there's not a bad Black Sabbath record in my opinion. Some I like better than others, but there's not a for all you just the first 6 record people, don't give a listen to Born Again. And I love that album. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kent makes a good point. The heavy metal movie. DCC very much feels like the heavy metal movie, which very much feels, which you can't, that's Mob Rules right there. Give me Mob Rules all day, every day. I'm such a fan of that. So, but yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Black Sabbath, and Black Sabbath makes me think about Xcrawl and their lyrics. I constantly find inspiration for their lyrics. Right now, there are 6 Black Sabbath songs that I have turned into adventures, 2 of which have been published, and the other ones which are still living in a notebook. So, who knows? Jason Lilly says to all panelists, what are some of your favorite DCC modules? Okay, so I love the one that watches from below. I love the Chained Coffin. I'm a huge fan of all of the stuff from Purple Planet. I think it's fantastic. The Jeweler that dealt in Stardust is that makes me want to be the Jeweler that dealt in Stardust makes me want to be a better adventure designer. That is an absolutely inspirational adventure that just every time just reading that one just completely sucks me up. trying to think of my other ones like off the top of my head. Oh, Colossus Rise is really cool. That's such a great one. Oh, and let's talk about old DCC for a minute. I'm back from the old DCC era, back when it was, still 3.0, 3.5, and man, if y'all have not checked out Joseph Goodman's The Mysterious Tower, I ran that twice, I ran that for my wife and her buddies she's a scientist from her graduate school science lab. Woo! That was, so fun. That's a great one. I love Doom of the Savage Kings is a brilliant adventure. And Legacy, right? And Legacy of the Savage Kings. I can go on and on, but those are some of my absolute favorites. Okay, so someone says, are there one or two DCC rules that you typically change for your games, or do you do everything rules at written? I don't see that I can go up in the chat window, so I might be missing out on questions up there. That's how you do it. Thanks. Okay, so there are a couple things that I change. For 0 level characters, I give all 0 level characters 4 hit points at 0 level, but I do not let 0 level characters spend luck. It just eats up forever. I feel like 0 level characters, they should be dying and doing less luck that way and such. There's one, we were just talking about this in the last the GCC College. This is just the way I play it. If I give out luck rewards to characters who can burn luck, I have them add that luck to their luck total. I feel like the thieves and halflings, their luck should eventually be higher than 18. It should, as they get higher level, it's the only way that halflings really level up alongside other characters is whenever they get a luck reward to let them add that to their total. So eventually, a 10th level halfling who's had a real full campaign should have a 30 luck and should never lose a luck roll, that kind of thing. So that's basically it. Everything else, I pretty much do rules as written. I think I always forget to remind people to take off points of stamina when they come back from 0, but they should remember that, and I'm at fault for remembering that. From Christian to all panelists, am I talking too fast? I'm trying not to.
No, you're good. Sounds good on this end.
Cool. All right. Christian says, will it be easy to bring in new races from Xcrawl DCC into vanilla DCC? Do you ever have to share a room with the other Goodman folks at cons? After all, who is the worst roommate? All right, come on now. I am not a hater.
Actually, but Brendan, this does remind me of a story.
Oh, yeah. Me and Harley?
Yeah, and Gary Con?
I'm sorry, I just got some bad news flapped up on my message screen. Shoot.
We can take a breather if you need it.
All right, sorry, let me back up. Okay, so races from Xcrawl DCC into vanilla DCC. It will be very easy to do that. The key races we're talking about here are half-elves, half-orcs, and gnomes. And I don't see any. They'll transition perfectly. They will all have. Each one has a special mojo things that will obviously only be meaningful in Xcrawl games or other games where you use the mojo rules. But it shouldn't be any problem. They'll just have that mojo thing that'll be there like a vestigial tail if they come to your Langmar game or regular DCC or whatever. Do you ever have to share a room with other Goodman folks at cons? If so, who is the worst roommate? I actually have pretty good luck, with most everybody. I will say I've only ever been woken up by a punch to the face by one of my roommates in Goodman games, and that, of course, is the world's gnarliest sleepwalker, Harley Stroh. At Vegas, early Gamma Trade Show, Harley, I woke up to Harley punching me in the face a bunch of times. It wasn't great. I got up, I got my back up against. I put my hands up. I got my back up against the wall. I literally did not know what was going on. And then finally, like Joseph turns on the light and like calms Harley down. He's like, "Come back to bed, Brendan. Just come back to bed." And I'm like, "Come back to bed," you know. But I was okay. He was okay. And it was just one time, so you know.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Harley's a sleepwalker, and my memory of that night was similar to Brendan's, where I suddenly was awakened and there was total chaos coming from the other side of the room, and it sounded like two people were fighting, and turns out they were.
Yeah, one person was fighting, one person was furiously blocking. I did not tag Harley back, so, you know.
Good self-control.
I'm pretty proud of that one. So as not to be, okay, this is from Shonsky. What's up, Shonsky? So as not to be wasteful of your Judge Key, when getting ready to run a game, what do you prep for and what do you not prep for? You know, I have the adventure ready, but I also have a lot of experience running games from like way back. So I have a very big roster. I have a very big bench. So when someone does something off of the rails, I will try to reach out and grab one of those crazy things that happened before. And I use that. On my bench, there are NPCs, encounters, weird spells, settings, items, you know. Again, that just comes from doing a lot of prep. So, when I do prep, I make sure I know everything that's going on in the dungeon. I don't worry too much about the external stuff. I don't worry too much about the landscape. I'm very happy to make up some things as I go along. So, what I really try to remember is I try to look at the monster abilities, especially ones that have spells, and make sure I really know those and have that done. So there you go. Jason Lilly, to all panelists. Neon Knight is one of your published model duels inspired by Sabbath. The other one is Hole in the Sky, my first funnel, which is of course inspired by Hole in the Sky, which is from my favorite Black Sabbath album, Sabotage. It's a great song, and the lyrics, if you read the lyrics to Hole in the Sky, they really tie into the adventure. They really inform that adventure. And the ones that I run that are not published are Symptom of the Universe, Into the Void, Planet Caravan, and Behind the Wall of Sleep. Two-part question from Shonsky. I find that when I'm running games, I often have difficulty finding certain details for what the moment needs. What do you find is the best info to keep on hand when you're running games? What kind of things are just better to make up on the fly? You can. I try to never make up a spellcaster on the fly. I actually have. Here's a secret. So I want to show. This is my notebook from 2017. You can't see it because of my crazy background. But just in case a fight comes up with some spellcasters, I have other spellcasters like in the back of the book that I can bust out because I don't want to. On the fly, especially if a spell duel comes up. Gosh, forgive. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to just like in the moment decide what spells these things have and how many points I have to spell burn. So I try to have those set up. But I will go ahead and, I'll definitely make up a big bad monster, and I have a little formula in my head that I'll use. So it's like, okay, if it's a third level campaign and I need a single monster, I'll make up a 7 hit die monster. He'll have 1 special attack that will be require a DC 14 or a 15 saving throw. He's going to hit for, anywhere between +7 to hit and +9 to hit. I'll get 2d6, 3d6 damage. If I have to come up with a monster on the fly, like say if someone does a summon monster or a spell goes wrong and I have to have one, I've got a little bit of formula in my head. So I hope that helps. So try to have some spellcasters. Yeah, I hate having to come up with a spellcaster on the fly, and I always think, what spell does he have? Magic Missile, Magic Shield. And then I realized I always think of spells that have magic, the word in the title, when I'm trying to do it on the fly. It's not a good look. So I have those ready. Okay, so, and I guess that's it. a lot of things that you make up on the fly that I come up with on the fly, they're really like deep down buried that I'm pulling out that I haven't used for a while. Okay, and I hope that helps. From Mike Bolo, Buddy Mike, you mentioned Gamma. What's it like running for game sellers as compared to gamers? What do you have to do differently, if anything? Everything. So the game sellers are trying to see whether or not they can sell your game at their store. I am a huge advocate for DCC. After all of this time, my love for DCC has never diminished. I'm a huge fan. So I try to let my enthusiasm for the system itself come through when I'm running for the trade shows. The trade shows, you pretty much have two modes. One of which is you run 15-minute demos for a string of random game game retailers, people who own friendly local game stores. So I just try to make it quickly as possible. I try to make a good impression. I wear a shirt with a collar, which is very different. Very few people have actually seen me in long pants, but if you come to me with Gamma, long pants, you got to. It sucks. I got two pairs. I got to dust them off every time. But then, so either I'm running 15-minute demos, and then it's just boom, make it happen. I have a couple of set 15-minute demos that I can do, that I can bust out. But I also then they almost always have an open game night, and the difference in running an open game night for at a gamma trade show or any of the trade shows, as opposed to running an open game night at or any game at a convention, is that the retailers are much more likely to be drunk. A lot of them go to these things and it's their only vacation, so the last hour is a lot of laughing and people getting up to get refills and things. But the only thing I do differently is that rather than be about the adventure, when I'm running for the Gamma guys or at any trade show, I try to really highlight the system, and I'll even slow things down a little bit so I can talk more about the system. So, but I love Gamma and I love the experience of it. I'm so grateful I get to go every year. Dio or Ozzy? Don't say Tony Martin. I don't have to pick. I love them both. But I will say that I've met Dio and he was the coolest. When he died, I think that to this day, the death of Ronnie James Dio is the greatest loss that the heavy metal world has ever suffered. Him and Lemmy, although Lemmy not really, again, Motorhead not a metal band. But, I love them both. And, you don't have to choose. It's wonderful. I'm such a fan of, I love Dio era Sabbath. I love Mob Rules. That record, that song, I'm a huge fan of it. But my favorite Sabbath album is absolutely Sabotage, which is the one that Ozzy says he does not remember recording. So, but it's still, that's such a brilliant album, and I draw forth all the time. So, but again, I don't think it's a bad iteration for of Sabbath. I do not. I know some people are only these records. No, give me them all. Trash is such a good song. So, all right. Let's see. Repeating, a question from user Trev Monster on Twitch. Are there any tweaks that you've made during playtesting that were inspired by players surprising you with a crazy idea or totally ended up derailing your original concept? If so, what's your favorite story of that? I do have one, but it's not actually pertaining to, this is a story I love and a real thing that happened. But it's not actually a DCC story. This is an Xcrawl. Back when I was running the 3.0 version of Xcrawl, I was playtesting the Emperor's Cup, which is I think like a 17th level adventure, super high level. So in the beginning, we were going around the room and having everybody. So I had everybody make up. We didn't run campaign characters. Everyone made up, characters of the level we were playing, which I think was 16. And my buddy Don, who I haven't spoken to in a long time, Don Lafredo ran this dwarf, and he was a 10th level fighter, 6th level thief, I think he was. And somebody asked as a joke if he held any records. You know what I mean? Like because that was his backstory was that he has been from Xcrawl from the beginning. He had been part of it for 20 years, and that he he'd never gotten all the way to the Emperor's Cup before, so we were going to get the Emperor's Cup. So we asked him, they asked if he had held any records, and the joke was, yeah, he held the records for being swallowed alive and surviving the most times of anybody in the game. So if you look at that adventure, the first room is a Nightshade Nightcrawler. So I go second on initiative. He goes first. His first round, he says, I run over there, I get in front of the wizard, and I'm just going to stand there and defend him. The second round, boom, I drop a crit, swallow him whole. Go, 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 go. So from that, I actually created a feat. This is, 3.5 had feats. He had a feat called, we created a feat that called Interior Player. That was entirely based on that because we could not stop laughing and making jokes about that. How funny it was. And like, how many people won millions of gold pieces in Vegas? Like, I bet he's going to get swallowed one more time. And, So that one came from a play test. That was a tweet that I came from that. Also, I have another one, real quick. Neon Knights. I made that wizard real hard, way harder, because the first time I ran it for my old Athens group, they immediately killed the wizard, and then I'm thinking of, what do I do for the next 3 hours? So that was a drag. Okay, I hope that helped. Judge Raja says, what is the craziest thing you've had to come up with on the fly? How about a whole adventure? I was running my adventure Into the Void. I don't remember who all was playing in the game, but one of them was Julian. And Julian Bernecki from Spellboard, and of course, designer, amazing guy, one of my favorites. And that game went 100% off the rails. I had a way I wanted it to go, and they were like, hey, let's go to the Temple of the Rat God. And we were all having fun, so I improv that whole game. I sometimes resist the label gonzo, even when games sometimes go that way, but this one went berserk, and it was really fun. I can't remember all the details, but it involved the local rat temple having built this sort of like Spelljammer style Zeppelin airship in order to escape the world as it was being destroyed, and them becoming pirates. And they met Professor Elemental, the rapper. It really went, and the final scene was them having to attack a bunch of they were essentially Gith Yankees / Githzeri that they were fighting out in the void. I had fun. Alan White says, what do you do to create the spirit you maintain at the table? What do you suggest we try to do at the same? So what I try to do is I try to play with absolutely as much enthusiasm as I can. I'm a huge advocate of that. I consider it a performance, and I try to consider what I'm doing as a kind of performance. I try to go up there, and I try to be on. You know what I mean? I'm there. To me, the highest law is fun at the table. So that's really my goal. I really just want everybody to have a good time. Rules be hanged, adventure be hanged. I want people to walk away going, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that is how we spent the last 4 hours. So I try to make sure everyone's, I try to, push that bit of it, and I try to make sure everyone's having a really good time. And then I try to be a real fan of the players. I try to really root for them. Even when I'm trying to kill them, I try to root for them. And being a fan of them sometimes means being ruthless as heck. And just going for it, because I'm such a fan of my players that I'm like, they can take it, let's ratchet this up a little bit, So that's my main things, I really try to be a fan. I really try to bring that energy up, and I try to remember that whatever else is going on, I try to really put all my performance skills into it that I have. So and that's it. And that involved the performance side. That's voices. That's moving around the table. My one quick fix for a lot of things is stand when you run your games. Standing up really helps. That keeps you on your toes, keeps you light, keeps you thinking. Mike Bolam asks, ever drunker than Gary Con Saturday? Oh, man. I don't know what Mike's talking about. All right, so Randall Harris says, having seen you run a table with 10 plus people, do you... No, I'm kidding. Yes, I have been drunker than Gary Con Saturday. Here's what happened. I know exactly the night he's talking about. So I was at the social. I had started early. Joan Troyer and I had we pre-gamed. We I was done for. I was not just done for the day, but I was done for the convention. I didn't have a Sunday game, so I had to leave early. So Joan and I had a bunch of beers before the social. I got there. I actually fell asleep at the social, and somebody woke me up, and I'm like, huh? And they gave me you had to try this, and they should have let me sleep. I would have been fine, but I was very drunk, and it was bad. Luckily, like I said, it was my last game. But I remember I had to fly to Reno that morning to get to the Grand Gamma Trade Show, and luckily the people who gave me a ride to the airport were very kind. I want to say, I don't know, I barely remember it. I was pretty drunk on the way to the airport. So have I been drunker than that? Yes, but very rarely. Randall Harris says, having seen you run a table with 10 plus people, do you have any tips for running larger tables? Everything I said before about keeping that spirit up. Stay on your feet. Walk around. I when I'm running for a big group, I walk around. When it's someone's turn, I will walk around to them, and I'll actually roll dice in front of them sometimes. Keeping people engaged is the problem. We have that big of a group. So crank it up. Be funnier, be louder, and keep people's attention. If you see somebody fading out of it, find some way to include them. Make them a part of the joke. Make them a part of the action. Just, you got to always be kind of dragging people back in. So, yeah, it's an art, but you get better by doing it a bunch of times. JM says to all panelists, what got you into gaming? What was your first RPG? Okay, so when I was, 1977, I was 7 years old. My parents and we flew to California to go and visit some friends of my mom who were on sabbatical. They had a son who was about my age. We were not great friends, but we got thrown together a lot because our parents were great friends. But he had recently discovered Dungeons and Dragons, and he had the Blue Holmes edition of D&D. And he sat me down and he played, and it wasn't just he ran D&D for me, but the introduction that he did to this day was so haunting. My character started off as a street urchin in New York City, and I had no money, and I was destitute in the rain, and then I found this magic portal, and when I passed through it, I was suddenly an adult, and got involved in an adventure, and it was so magical, so wonderful. I flew home from California with the spell of D&D wrapped around my head, and I was like, oh, I gotta find people to play with, and luckily, for a while it was just me, although I did get a book or two. But then I joined Boy Scouts, and turned out my whole Boy Scout troop were all a bunch of gaming nerds. So we started playing hardcore, and it was wonderful. What was the most memorable game you played or run, and what made it so? I mean, I am lucky to have been a participant in so many fantastic games. I'll say the favorite game that I've played in, I will say my friend Paul Suda ran us through it was Firefly. It was Firefly used the Savage Worlds rules, and just a perfect game session. Again, walked away from that game I think about that. We played that exactly one time. I played that system that one time, that character that one time. I think about that character all the time. That's my, my spirit animal, So, but running, I've run so many I've really had the opportunity to run a lot of fun games. And I'd hate to, we could go all night. This is next time you see me someplace, ask me this question again, and hand me a beer, and we'll go off. But I have been blessed to have played in so many wonderful games with so many wonderful people. Even this weekend, I've had so much fun this weekend. My online games, yeah, they were killer. Another question from Twitch user Judge Darren 007. Hi, Brendan. Hi, Judge Darren 007. Which RPG is your guilty pleasure? I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I think love it or don't love it. But I'm not one of those guys that's I will tell you, there are some bands I like that you would make fun of me for, but I'll never back up of and say, well, I like them even though I know they suck. I like them. I just like them. I'm trying to think. I have the first Spice Girls album. I play it once a year. There you go. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I bop along to that. But as far as an RPG, it's a minority taste RPG. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really think of games that way. Of like, there's no game that I'm embarrassed about liking, which I think is the quintessence to an RPG guilty pleasure. But yeah, I don't. Nothing really. You know, I can't really think of one. I mean, maybe. I mean, you know, I know it's embarrassing. Like, I played so much Pathfinder. I still like Pathfinder. I won't play anymore, but I still have good memories of it. Maybe the old. We used to play this game called Mercs. That now, when I think about it, like essentially, you're hired mercenaries that would go. Like the couple of sessions we played, we went and shot a lot of innocent people. That was pretty gross. So there you go. Kent Landis, have you ever had a session bomb? Yes. Yes, I absolutely have. I've had every variant on the bombing session. I've had sessions where my big bad went down in a heap so early. I've had sessions where players just outsmarted and outgunned me. I've had people show up and just not like Xcrawl or DCC or whatever it is. Yeah, I've had tons of sessions bomb. I mean, turns. The one I could think of, we had I mean, I've had players show up belligerent, or drunk, or give each other a hard time. You know, one comes to mind. I had a dice cheat at play at in an Xcrawl game back in the old Panda Head days. I had a guy who was I caught cheating on dice, and I flipped on him, and I am not proud of that. But I ruined that session, so count that as a terrible bomb session. Okay, from Joseph Goodman. Hey, Joe. Repeating some questions from the Q&A from Mike Bullock. Who is your all-time favorite pro wrestler, and how did their character influence your work on Xcrawl? I have recently had to change my all-time favorite pro wrestler because it turned out my favorite all-time pro wrestler murdered their wife. I found out about that. I was heartbroken, just heartbroken. I won't even say their name, but I will say my second favorite in these days, give me Bam Bam Bigelow. Give me, Bam Bam Bigelow, how did it influence my work on Xcrawl? Bam Bam Bigelow is like me in a lot of ways. Bam Bam Bigelow is a fat guy that can do spin kicks and cartwheels. You know what I'm saying? Xcrawl is a fat guy that can do spin kicks and cartwheels. I know I don't need to say anything like that. Y'all totally get that. Question Q&A from Dad. What's up, dude? Is there going to be some form of organized play or ongoing tournament for Xcrawl Class? I think XCC would be the perfect setting for a living DCC living campaign a la Adventurers League or Greyhawk. I would love to do that. I would love to see that happen. I would love to write adventures for an ongoing campaign. Let's all work together and make that fantasy of mine come true. How is downtime between adventures in XCC different from DCC? Sure. So DCC adventures and the downtime, people are going to, they're going to go home, lick their wounds, spend too much money on alcohol and fall asleep in taverns, a la Conan. So there's that. XCC, between sessions in XCC, people are they're doing photo shoots. Maybe they're training some. I would say that the side quests in XCC tend to be more urban and rural. A lot of them involving gangsters, spies, and that kind of thing. There's also a lot more. I would say that one of the things that XCC explores that definitely takes place in the downtime between is the good and the bad side of fame. And that very rarely comes up in DCC. In DCC, your guy might get a rep, but you're not going to get made fun of in the hotel bar because you didn't walk on in a sitcom that everyone considers embarrassing. That happens in Xcrawl. So, Judge Roger, to all panelists, how do you feel about running games remotely versus in person? Any pointers for remote games? I would say that I am still in the ramping up version of my online running game things. So I ran, I've done one other online convention. I run a few online games for my friends. I feel like it keeps getting better and better. I'm enjoying myself more and more. And my morning session, I did. I ran Neon Nights this morning. There was a point when I was describing things that I realized that I had to like take a step back and look around my surroundings because I had forgotten that I was running online, and I was so visual and I was so into the moment of the story in my head that the technology had become as transparent to me as the game, and it was it was just like running around a table. So I think we're all in that session. So my pointer is, I mean, do what you got to do to keep people's interest. I think you have to rev up the energy even higher when you're doing this because it's very easy everybody's at home. They're home with their pets and their kids and their computer monitors that will let them look at their email and every other thing. So I think you have to be even more engaging. And when you see someone starting to fade out, you have to reach out to them, whether that just to ask what that character is doing, or to actively engage them in whatever's going on. But it is some work though. Okay, Joseph Goodman, all panelists from Trev Monster. Any thoughts on players that initiate PvP combat? How do you judge that, especially if someone is being a jerk about it? I hate that when if PvP happens and it's all for fun and games and we're all enjoying ourselves, I don't mind it. I'll educate that all day. But if it's just somebody picking on somebody else or being cruel in game, I mean, I have very little tolerance for that. And if you have to walk the line. But if I feel like people have gone from just, having a laugh and having to be like a thing between buddies, like, whoa, I guess I'm going to kill your wizard now. We're all having a laugh at it. If that gets down into, into real world bad feelings, that is when I will stop things. I mean, I've asked people to cool it before. I've asked folks, I've questioned folks like, tell me why your chaotic good character thinks now is a good idea to go ahead and attack your chaotic good other character in this game. Explain to me from an alignment point of view why that works. From a strategic point of view, I really think you have to keep the real world conflicts outside. And if it's bad like that, you got to sit down and talk to those people and resolve that before, squash that nonsense before you actually sit down with dice in your hands. Or that kind of thing is going to happen. I've seen. Famously, I had two friends become ex-friends. I did not realize this, and we all sat down in the game together. It didn't get to PvP so much as like a kind of a cruel stonewalling, like nobody helping each other and offering, oh, I got a potion, he's dying, whatever. So that, eventually that game group broke up. But I think, in the moment, if it crosses the line between being just for fun and just a laugh, and also being in character, and it gets into something personal at the table, that is when I think you really have to take a step back and stop talking to the characters, talk to the players, and resolve that and figure out what's going on. And sometimes you'll do that and people will still be belligerent. I've had to ask people to leave the table before, never for that reason. I've always so far been able to sort of talk people out of being jerks. So Judge Rogers says, D&D Adventurers League handles that by allowing it. Yeah, that's a way to do it. I would hate for it to actually affect the rules, like letting a fireball not get someone. If he makes a mistake and accidentally blows his buddies up, I'm going to love that. All right, so we're almost done here. We've got a few minutes. If there aren't any more questions, I just want to say thank you. Thank you all so much for coming here and for listening to me rapid fire answer questions as quickly as I could. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope everyone do. Thank you. I hope this was informative and fun, and thanks so much. Mike, thank you. Joe, we got time for one more question. You got one for me? Is there going to be some form of? We answered that. Yes, if I can make organized play, I want to do it. Thank you, JM. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Shonsky. You're the best, Jason Lilly. You're the best. I appreciate you coming to this game. Thank you. I appreciate